Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to ISAS. We have with us today Dr. S. Narayan, who's visiting senior research fellow at ISAS and also a former economic advisor to the Prime Minister of India. As you all may have known by now, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the former Prime Minister of India, passed away yesterday, sadly. So we thought we'll speak to Dr. Narayan to find out a bit about the former Prime Minister and his legacy to India. Dr. Narayan, welcome. As a former economic advisor to the Prime Minister, what, in your opinion, were his achievements during his term as Prime Minister?
When Mr. Vajpayee became the Prime Minister, actually for the third time in 1999, and that was the time he got a full 5-year tenure as Prime Minister, the country was economically not quite stable, particularly in the wake of the 1997 crisis in the Southeast Asia, and also because the finances of the country were not quite stable. So if I were to say that in these 5 years he put the country on a steady path, brought in reforms which I would label as right of center, pro-business, opening up for industry, and most importantly a focus on infrastructure. His greatest single contribution in infrastructure was the announcement of the road program which would link north, south, east, west through expressways, 4-lane expressways, and he created a very innovative funding mechanism of a small cess on petrol and diesel which would fund for these roads. And today the logistics of India transportation has been totally changed because of a single initiative. Quite apart from that, the decisions that he took in opening up for foreign investment, in simplifying the rules, especially the rules which related to imports. In fact, the customs duties were reduced substantially during his period. Income tax was rationalized in his period. And we had a period of, I would say, a lot of modern reforms in institutions, including the Unit Trust of India, all of which led to a huge growth in GDP which was witnessed after 2004.
Great. What do you think is his legacy to India?
His important legacy is India. I would say is politics as a statesman, ability to carry a democratic alliance together which consisted of 23 parties, keep them in good humor, be inclusive, and most importantly, fundamentally he believed in democracy, in the sense that if the opposition had a question, had a query, had a dispute with the government, he was willing to discuss it openly in Parliament and willing to allocate time for the opposition, which means that all the opposition leaders felt very comfortable dealing with him, asking him questions about the government, and he never worried about criticism. So I must say his legacy is the establishment of strong democratic principles in government and a transparent methodology of deciding on economic development.
Right. And Dr. Narayan, I mean, you have probably spent a lot of time with him. Do you have any personal anecdotes of the former Prime Minister that perhaps many of us may not know about and that you'd like to share with us?
I will just mention two. So there was a time around 2001 that the US was planning to invade Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of pressure brought on India to support that move and in fact come out openly in support of the American move. And there was a day when all the big leaders, all the big people from the United States, I don't want to mention names, were in Delhi waiting for a signal from him. And he spent a long day thinking about it. And at the end of it, he just said one sentence, "Hame Iraq mein nahi jana hai." So a big decision which has turned out to be a very, very correct decisions at that time. The other decision, big decision which the world initially condemned and finally appreciated, was his decision to go in for the nuclear test in 1998. Actually, India was ready even earlier, in 1995 and 96. But that was the end of Mr. Narasimha Rao's time. And in between 96 and 98, there was a little bit of uncertainty in government. But when he came in 1998, he had no hesitation. And he wrote a long letter to the President of the United States explaining why he needed to do it. And I think history has acknowledged that he did the right thing at that right time.
Certainly. As we all know, Mr. Vajpayee is a man of many talents, a statesman, a politician, and even a poet. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you, Dr. Narayan, for sharing your thoughts on him with us. Thank you very much.
Thanks.